right, welcome back to Aegis. We are coming with you with the Aegis Ascension League show match. This is week 1 for Aegis Ascension League after we just finished up with week 2 of the Marauders League. Dan, are you excited for some Aegis Ascension action?
I am very excited for some Aegis Ascension action. I am mostly excited to not be playing any more TFT today. My brain is TFT'd out. I'm excited to watch some TFT, see some other players play this game, and just see what kind of boards they can put together, what kind of augment combinations we're going to see. The game is just so different each and every time that it makes it such a great experience for us as commentators.
Yeah, and I know myself having to play multiple different of these new portals, Wandering Trainer, Champion Delivery, some of those games. I think it's a lot more fun to cast those moments than it is to particularly play them. So it's going to be fun, I think. For anyone who doesn't know, the Aegis Ascension League is low masters and under. So primarily going to be people around Diamond, maybe Platinum, Emerald type of deal, and then a couple 100 LP, sub 100 LP Masters players generally. So it's very fun, very mixed, and see a lot of different, I think, comps and ideas that just pop up and create some wild action. So
yeah, there's going to be quite a range here, and we're looking at a couple players that are coming back this season that have played before. I know Lynxie's been in it before, Drakus. I don't know if Flippy's been in it, but another thing, Raging Rex. A big shout out to Raging Rex today. It's their 30th birthday on the first day of the AAL season. So if you happen to be in contact with them, give them a happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday to Raging Rex. We will be hopping into the game quite shortly, so it'll be fun to see these final 2 games. They've already played 2 games today. This will be their last 2 games of the day, and it'll be fun, I think, to see how they choose to fight it out, because some people, I think, maybe get tilted if their first 2 games don't go too well, and maybe some people are riding a high because they've taken 2 1s or 2 top 4s. Or sometimes it's a mix.
Yeah, waiting for some of those hot streak points. So we'll see what happens at the end of the week with those hot streak points that tend to honestly make a difference between playoffs, not playoffs, the bye in the first week of playoffs, and all that good stuff from the other leagues as well. So we see every season that a lot of players get to claim those hot points. So we'll see exactly how that works out for them.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interested to see what kind of comps pop up here in this Aegis Ascension League. We are in the 2nd week of a patch, so it's probably going to be a little less dissimilar to something that we'd see in Marauders League and Champions League than it would be maybe on the 1st week of a patch, just because I think by now some of these players who are more in Diamond and Platinum have had time to catch up and learn some of the comps that are sort of meta, as opposed to maybe if we had been playing last week, we might see a bit more of that last patch type of comp, like a Jax reroll or some of that Caitlyn Ezreal duo type of comps. So it'll be interesting to see if that still pops up here, or if we're fully back into Karthus Akali, Viego mode, Disco TF, and we'll see how many rerollers there are as well. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Country Samira.
Yeah, Country Samira is such a comfortable comp, especially in the lower ranks as well, because it's so straightforward. You buy a few units, you get to reroll more than 1 unit, so it's always fun to see multiple golden units on the board. But then also it's always cool to see the last few days of a patch, right? Like there's about 3 or 4 days left in this patch, and so the meta is mostly solved at this point. There's still some comps that have been popping up and making some waves. Seraphine reroll is fairly recent, Gnar reroll. But for the most part, people are settling into the Twisted Fate, the Pentakill, the Country reroll, the Twin Terror that has been terrorizing the ladder, all that good stuff. But we are now loading into this first game, and the votes are pretty split across the board here.
Yeah, 3 relatively normal portals, I would say, between larger legends. We do get completed Anvil, which just comes with any completed item of your choice from 4 differing options. How do you like to play Anvil? Dan, do you like to pop it immediately on 1-3 as soon as you can, or do you wait a little bit?
I like to, with completed Anvil, I tend to wait. If it's the artifact Anvil, I tend to pop it on 1-3 just to try to get direction.
Yeah, and I think I like to pick completed Anvil when it pops up, I think, because if you are comfortable, slamming items, you can just pick whatever you need and go from there, and potentially win streak, or even, depending on what kind of opener you get, pick a particularly good item for a specific reroll comp.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see here Flippy Master, we have their perspective. They are the top seed of this lobby, second seed in AAL right now, I believe. Something like that. If not, they're in the top few seeds that we're going to be looking at. They pick up a Dazzler Nami. They have a Jinx Tyrix start. Looks like they're going to be trying to get some disco on the board. Now, what do you make of this Nami pickup?
I do think it is a good pickup for the Chosen. We don't have a Gragas at the moment, and it is a Dazzler Nami, so you can't play the full disco comp yet. However, if you find a Gragas early, you can get that on the board, and overall, I think that it's just pretty strong, especially with this item start, where you could potentially, make a Rage Blade or a Merlinomicon and lean into that Disco TF line. We see them reroll a couple things.
Looks like a 5-item start as well, so a lot of these item-based augments might be better. The cybernetic augments, the scrappy inventions, maybe anything like that is going to have so much more value here in a lobby where people have more items. And we're moving into this Annie board with 4 Annies, no Chosen, 2 great Bis even Annie items here, and the board is looking pretty solid from the get-go.
Yeah, this is an interesting choice. I'm not a big player of Annie reroll, I would say. I don't tend to play it very often, but I do believe she's got some interesting itemization things to her. For example, I think it depends on what Chosen version of Annie that you receive. For example, on the previous patches, before Annie was changed, when she was first making her terrorizing of the lobbies everywhere, essentially, Shojin plus that Nashers, and then you'd get the extra Shojin, was best in slot. Although I think now it's more dependent on which variation you get. So, for example, in Spellweaver variation, I believe you're correct, and this is quite Bis, the Shojin plus Nashers. However, if you do get the Emo Annie, I believe it is the opposite, and you would rather have a blue buff.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that, especially with the emo mana reduction and things like that, making it to where blue buff makes it a more economic option in terms of mana generation. Now, here we have Gargantuan Resolve, Double Titans, a great lobby to try to run that augment. And one of the things that I was going to note about this lobby is the fact that with a 5-component start and completed Anvil, it's going to be able to reward those players that are going to slam items early a lot more. And this is one of the problems that some of the middle ranks of TFT can sometimes have, and what often separates Diamond and Emerald and Master from each other is the ability to slam items and just get going on those components and not let them just lose value on your bench.
Yeah, and then also, of course, recognizing, as you're talking about, when you get something like a 5-item start, you're going to want to use those items to, as you said, make items, slam items, and then ideally be win streaking throughout stage 2 so that you can get a 5 win streak and use that tempo that you gain from being able to slam so many items to have high HP and high gold moving forward into stage 3 and beyond. So sometimes, as you sort of noted, in these lower ranks, they don't necessarily know what the best way is to slam the items, or sometimes they don't even know that they should make all of their items in the first place. Sometimes people might even decide to hold them and greed for better items.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of situations where you get into and you have a good idea of what you want to play, and you have 3 halves of the best items, and so you can't really slam anything quite yet, or at least you can, but it's going to be a little bit painful to do so, knowing that you're getting rid of some good components. And that might have been the case here. We see the Spark Redemption Slam when at least one of those components could have been used towards like a Hodge, for example, or something like that, which is usually what Titans or Gargantuan is kind of angling towards in the first place.
Yeah, that is an interesting point about this ELO as well. Is a lot of the times as you get higher up, these 2-1 augment selections are very particular because certain augments like the Gargantuan Resolve on at a 2-1 could be extremely OP from the right spot. Right? If we, I think, saw someone with like an Olaf headliner, for example, with the Gargantuan Resolve double Titans, we'd be like, oh my goodness, what a great spot. However, now we're going to have to see how they sort of transition out of that disco board and what they end up deciding to play as we come over here to another interesting choice with the Deathblade augment a cut above, which grants that little bit of gold.
Yeah, very, very interesting choice here, because it looks like you might want to. I mean, obviously, I think they're going to want to try to go for pentakill here, right? But at the same time, they have a Heartsteel spat that could be made use of. They've slammed Rageblade and Archangel. One of those items is really good on Karthus. The Rageblade is a little more iffy unless they're trying to reroll Kale from here, which might be interesting as well.
Yeah, reroll Kale, I have not seen too much of it, so I'm very unfamiliar on sort of the itemization of how Kale plays. Yeah, we really would like to see a reroll Kale, wouldn't we? But I don't know if Rageblade is particularly good on a Kale. Dan, what do you think? You played much reroll Kale?
I unfortunately have not played enough reroll Kale to be able to comment that much on it, but I do think that the attack speed wouldn't be bad on her, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up, and so we're gonna see I think, a bit more flexibility from that player in terms of what they want to play. Here's a good reroll Kale angle. Here we go.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, even without the reroll, I'm pretty sure I have not done it because I have not played enough of Kale. But I believe here, Kale is supposed to be quite, after the buffs, quite good for holding any kind of AP item as a headliner. So if you were to take that Kale chosen with that Mordekaiser right here, I'd imagine you'd have quite a stable board going into stage 3. Doesn't look like we're going to take that option. It looks like Rex has something in mind because they are cooking with the HP and perhaps sticking with what looks to be Samira country that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, as most of our viewers know, there are 2 main resources in this game. There is gold and there's HP, and Rex is opting to use his HP as his main resource for stage 2 here, trying to get that 5 loss, trying to maximize the gold so that he can have enough gold to comfortably go level 7 and start trying to roll for this, presumably this country board that he's trying to hit from this angle. Again, this could be, well, there's a Samira copy there for him. I was going to say this could be an angle where he's trying to still be kind of flex, but at the same time, the items are essentially speaking for themselves at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I really like his spot. It's quite interesting. It's a little unorthodox, I'd say, because usually you don't want to be loose streaking with a country opener, like country reroll. You kind of want to, preserve HP and just keep winning. especially also because they have Spoils of War, where you want to be killing units and getting those drops. But at the same time, they have a great spot moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see if they can stabilize and end up hitting the units.
No, this has been really interesting so far in terms of what the players are playing to try to preserve HP and try to get a board on, well, a board rolling, essentially. And we see Bob Shell here, one of the newcomers to AAL this season, essentially holding items on this Corki. The Corki getting triple lasered there in that fight and sending it straight to the Shadow Realm, where the 4 loss streak gold is going to come in quite handy in this next round, I believe.
Now here comes the exciting part, the 3-2 augment selections. Over here for Bombshell, they've taken the Rich Get Richers, so it'll be interesting to see. You'd like to see, I think, a combat augment, but they take crash test dummies, which it's pretty solid. It's very, it's never a bad take, I'd say, because it gives basically a pseudo frontline plus the CC.
Yeah, if you get offered 3 okay augments and one of them happens to be crash test dummies, I mean, it's a takeable one. It's a solid one. It's going to get you pretty far in terms of what you want to do with the augment. And we do see that Bombshell is trying to really stack up their Heartsteel cash out here. It looks like they're about 2 rounds in, probably, based on the stacks there, maybe 3 rounds. And they're really trying to get something out of this that's going to help them recover this lost HP in a way that helps them make a comeback in this lobby where the top 3 are still so healthy.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting as well what they choose to play later in the game. They do have that IE, the Even Shroud, and a Titan's Resolve as well, sort of leaning towards that AD line. But they also have a Rage Blade, which, of course, is much better, I think, this set on some of those AP carries. So
and
potentially
could chosen Samira on Rex.
Yes, looks like we were talking about them stabilizing. I think they've done just that. They must have rolled at 6 because it looks like they have no gold. So that is one way to play. I think some of those 3-cost reroll comps is to roll at 6. A little risky if you don't hit, but
yep. It's almost that never punished angle here. And we are seeing a potential Seraphine reroll angle here, unless they're trying to reroll Gragas for some reason, which I personally kind of doubt. But at the same time, if I see a chosen Gragas 3, I'm feeling a little bit of fear in my heart.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those situations where you're like, should I just keep the Gragas? Because if you get offered, some of these units where you're like, well, I'm going to get a 3-star Gragas. When do you say no to that? That's one of the hard things. That's one of the hard things about TFT as you go up there. It's like you're almost baited. You're like, this seems like a good idea, right? But perhaps not. But I think let's go, right? Let's play Gragas. They have a great itemization, I'd say, for a eventual Twisted Fate with that Rage Blade, Giant Slayer, Gunblade.
Yes, definitely. And it's that situation of like, who could say no to that face, right? You look at Gragas, you're like, oh, look at that. Like, who's going to say no to Gragas?
Exactly.
We are in the second.
Will they get the Gragas on the
here.
carousel?
Ooh.
They might have it. Oh, but they don't go for it. They go for the red rot.
All right, Lindsay, you've really let us down here today, but we'll get over it, I guess. We are probably going to see Lindsay angle towards that disco with those items there, and we have at least one country reroller, probably a couple of pentakill players, and not sure what everyone else is going to be trying to do from here. I think Bob might be trying to go Riven with that Rage Blade IE, but I don't know.
Yeah,
and we are back on Arashi with Annie 3.
Yes, so they did hit the Annie. They do, in fact, have the optimal Spellweaver chosen. We had talked about earlier that perhaps this itemization would lend itself better to the Spellweaver Annie version. I'm not sure if they specifically waited to select that version of Annie, or if they just happened to get that and are high rollers, dirty high rollers, but either way, looking great for them.
Yeah, running straight into Rex here, who is hitting everything they want and more with an Urgot 2, Samira chosen, and a Vex there. The Annie 3 might prove too much for the comp, but it all depends on this 1-star Echo to stay alive. Does not stay alive. Did they buy enough time? The Vex stun comes through. It is just enough to beat Arashi there, who, again, has managed to hit exactly what they wanted so early on in the game.
Yeah, I think Annie is a lot about positioning, right? Because you want to be able to use those casts from Annie to blow up some of those carries as early as possible.
Yeah, and that board too. Most of that board was 1-star besides the 3-star Annie and I think a 2-star Lilia. Everything else was just getting folded immediately by that Samira. So.
Yes, as we come over to the last stand board, this is Drakus is playing some interesting stuff here. We have a whole combination of things, right? We got the Titans Resolve with the Gargantuan Resolve, which could be anything. You ideally want some sort of melee carry, something like an Olaf or like a Bruiser, maybe a Viego. I don't know about Zed. You ever think about that? Zed with Gargantuan Titans Resolve might be an interesting one. So, what's going to come from this board here, Dan? Any predictions?
Man, this last stand has thrown me completely for a loop. I think that a Zed could do really well with the Gargantuan, especially with that last stand proc. They could be trying to go for the new AD flex board that includes Ezreal and Zed and things like that. But that's usually played from a spot where you have Heartsteel. And so it looks like these Titans might be used defensively instead of offensively with the Twisted Fate in the backline there and trying to just, really beef up this Blitzcrank to where it's just like a double Titans Blitzcrank with infinite AP and infinite resistances.
Yeah. Now, one other option, although we don't see any econ augments, so it might be a little tough, but we are already level 7, so we could be going for a situation where they just power level to level 9 or 10 and try and find something like a Yorick. Now, that would be an interesting user of Gargantuan Resolve. How about that?
Especially if you manage to 2-star that Yorick, it would be quite the beast with a double Gargantuan Resolve there, and hopefully be able to keep itself alive with either a Bloodthirster or a Mosher in there, maybe grab a set, an Olawi, all that good stuff that Disco used to play at the start of the set and has, since been able to experiment with a little bit more. We see Rex is not quite sending it yet. They're feeling very comfortable with their spot despite having half of their HP gone and launching into this fight against another opponent who is still just holding on to an early game carry in that Seraphine. I don't think the Seraphine's going to be able to pump out enough damage to be able to keep up with the Samira and the Vex and the Urgot and the Horse. Everything is just piling on to this one tank in the middle here that is falling apart, but holding on for dear life. This Gragas is really doing so much work, but it finally falls to the pressure of the country board, and Lynxie takes a loss here to Raging Rex.
Yeah, as we come into the 4-2 augment, oh boy, it's almost certainly three's a crowd here, you'd have to think.
Absolutely.
As they do, yes. As we come and look for some sort of roll down, we'll see how deep they choose to go. Looks like they might be stopping here, which, might be fine. It could be fine. Especially since, we're sitting pretty. We have the 6 Samiras. We have only 3 Vexes, so we'll see if they choose to roll faster, later, but it seems like they're sitting pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think, the front line leaves a little bit to be desired, but They are hitting the units they want. They are hitting the augments they want. They have the healing orbs to be able to keep that front line going. And honestly, most of the lobby is playing pretty greedy at this point, either holding on to some early game carries or just holding on to money in some shape or form, and this Lux isn't even hitting the Samira to begin with. So I think that Rex is making a good call here by slow rolling instead of just full sending it, because if they manage to hit fairly early on, they can go level 8, potentially even level 9, and try to cap out that way, since honestly Country is one of those comps that if you don't do something to really cap it out, it's just you're just playing for top 4.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if I'm Rex, the only thing I'm focusing on, maybe if I did want to roll a little bit deeper, is perhaps looking for that Amumu too, and really starting to, beef up that front line, especially since we don't have any items at the moment. As we come down to what did end up being Kale reroll here. 6 pentakill on the board, but besides that, Rageblade Archangels, it's going to be interesting. It hasn't been going too great. I imagine that Kale does not have too much time to ramp up as we get a Jewel Gauntlet.
Yeah, there's so much missing here for RNG that they wish they had hit so much more. They have tank items on their Gnar. They have a Mordekaiser there that's doing all right, but then you have Karthus 1, Yone 1, Katarina 1. It's just everything is just trying to hold on for dear life so that this Kale can do something, and they do manage to break their 7 loss streak against Drakas, keeping themselves alive for this carousel where they are probably hoping to get a chain so that they can get that 7 pentakill buff for themselves.
For sure, and they're going to have the first option to do it, so you better hope that you're not going to get Mort dogged and have no chain vests on the carousel. Or potentially double spat.
Don't get baited by it. Don't get baited by it. He's thinking about it. He's going for the fawn. He got baited by the fawn. Oh no, you hate to see it. It's not the worst call you could have made, but at the same time, you don't have a 7th pentakill unit. You could have just guaranteed the 7 pentakill there, but we'll see. It might just be a never punished angle. There's going to be a Viego in the next shot, but guaranteed. Commentator manifestation here coming in. Ready, set. Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry. I failed.
Well, we can put in another Mosher. You can put Set in. Set
would be a good pick here, I think.
You can put Set and Jackson. Or you could we'll
or we roll.
Okay. We could put the Kiana in instead of the Katarina.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. And now we're gonna not use the Fawn. We'll see if they can win this round though, against this pretty stacked Heartsteel board, very tanky Echo. No upgrades in terms of 4 costs over there yet, but double upgrades, both Aphelios 2 and the Senna 2. Kale trying her best, but doesn't look like she is able to get through that front line.
Wait a minute. We have Fawn on bench.
Yep.
Did it count though? Did we have 7 units only?
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't built, I don't think.
Oh no!
Not fast enough. So.
Oh no, RNG.
I think they got a little confused. They were trying to cook just a little too hard.
When you hit that 11 HP and it's stage 4, the brain doesn't really work at that point. It's hard. I've been there multiple times, and I go back and rewatch some of those games if I happen to have footage, and it's like, wow, there were so many outs that I missed.
I get it. Today I went 8th 2 times. One time was cooking, and the other time was we'll not talk about that one.
It was raw. It was raw, chef.
Hey, I had a QSS Yasuo stage 2, baby, and someone said I'm also playing Ribbon, so that's it happens, and that's just how it goes. As we are still rocking, I'm quite happy with the this board is pretty strong here for Babam.
Yeah, Babam is really making something out of their board here with a honestly really solid front line. They're still keeping the Heartsteel on the board here to try to get maybe one more cash out before they try to pivot completely. They have a ton of gold that they're sitting on. They have not opted to go level 8 yet. Probably hoping to try to, make a big roll down out of this 5-1, or maybe even start rolling here, or just go straight to level 9. You never know.
Yeah, they do have a Kayn on the board now, so perhaps they're looking to get that 5 Heartsteel in there. perhaps, but it'll be interesting to see how they choose to roll down, because they do have that set there as their headliner. So if they wanted to roll for a different headliner, they would have to sell the set who, other than Echo, is primarily their main source of frontline there.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about like spots like this, right, is the fact that they're gonna have to do quite a bit of transitioning. They're gonna have to spend all the gold to go all the way to 9 and then have to figure out the board from there. And so we will come back and see how that worked out in just a few minutes. But until then, we are with Elja, who has a spat, has something that they're going to do with it. Not quite sure what yet, but they do have a 4 bruiser, 4 EDM setup here, trying to get this Lux 3 rolling.
Yeah, the Lux reroll has sort of flown under the radar. It's not terrible, but it is very less frequently played, I'd say. Last patch, it's probably a little awkward for LG here, because they've got the spatula. Last patch in the EDM line, you could potentially use that spatula to make a jazz spat and run Bard or MF or Lucian with the Dazzler on Lux. But now that cloak plus spat recipe makes for country, it's a little more awkward. Oh, it's all good. You can't forget the Zed. You got to think that they want to get that in there. They're digging deep. Will they hit? We don't know. They're gonna stop.
And here's the thing about this spot too, is like, you have the ability to go level 8 and roll for Lux, and you're only missing 1 Lux. And so if you can get this Zed in there, that's infinitely more value than trying to just hit everything on level 7 when you're so far away from everything, right? I think that's a Jax 2 on the board there, or on the bench there for them.
Yeah, I believe so.
Jax, 1 off Lux. They're not that far away from the stuff that they want to hit. If they go 8, they can probably still hit it and have an infinitely stronger board. In fact, this fight was probably a level 8 diff right there, as they take another loss in stage 5 with the updated player damage that is just, it's going to start adding up a lot if they keep taking these losses.
Yeah, when you're rerolling, it's always tough to make that decision of when to really push and roll down, and when to level, especially if you get stuck in the middle there, as we just saw, sort of at 20 gold, where you're hesitant to go below, but you really want to just hit your units. So as we see Drakas here, who has got this TF on the board, has got very little HP. And,
they have a decent TF setup here, but they don't really have the damage. They don't really have the front line. Their items are still on a Taric. They haven't moved anything to Blitzcrank yet. We are still hanging on to this Gragas with the items, who is doing the best he can, but honestly is not as good of a late game tank as some of his other counterparts in the Disco line could be. The Lux is still doing her best, and so even though this board is not what it could be, it is still better than this Lux board that has not quite hit what they want to. And even though they rolled down all the way, they still didn't find everything they wanted, despite so many 3 costs being out of the pool, with Samira 3, a Mumu 3 on another board. There's so many 3 costs out of the pool, but they're still not hitting.
Oh, if I am Drakas, I am looking at that red buff right now. Instant take. We'll see if they do indeed take it. Let's hope they put it on that Twisted Fate. You never know. They could put it on another unit. You never know.
Yeah, it's no Morello, but it might save them a little bit of HP, enough to not be able to. They're probably playing for a 6th, maybe a 5th at this point from their spot. And so if that red buff can save them even 1 placement, that's going to make quite a bit of a difference for them in terms of their points. But we are probably going to transition back to another player's perspective here, as Drakas hopes they hit. Bob-omb.
Okay.
Back to Bob-omb. They are... Oh, they rolled for...
you'd think I would... yes, all right, instant take.
Without the Chosen. Interesting. Now,
very
we need to get these items off of Felios. We need to get these items off of Senna. We need to get...
Okay, we roll best.
We need to get some other units on the board. We need to get this MF on the board. Oh, on!
We rolled past another Aphelios, and we're staying. We're fighting Drakus. Now, one thing is, I think 19 HP. I think it's enough. I don't think they're gonna die if they lose, or if they win. You know, maybe they'll win. You know.
Yeah,
TF is trying, but this is one tanky
on this board that would love that Infinity Edge, and they are looking at it longingly. They are doing their best while Aphelios is just idly swinging that gun around and trying to do something.
There's the last stand, right? We forgot. Last stand proc.
Drakus was 100 HP when they took that augment, top of the entire lobby, and now they procced it in 7th place. And we'll have to see if it makes enough of a difference for them. They're still on Ziggs 1. They're still on Blitz 1. They're not really hitting anything that they want to hit.
Okay.
They need to just take a Chosen. They need to probably just take this Zac Chosen. Unless
we sold our Gragas to put in another Gragas.
We sold our Gragas.
I don't really know what we just did there. Just to move the items over, I guess, onto the Thresh.
Yeah, this has been an interesting game. For sure, you are 1 gold short of being able to buy that Zac if you want it. But at this point, you know, I feel like it was probably, I don't know, sell the Echo for the Zac or something, but you need to be able to get that Zac in there. You need to be able to have the extra tankiness, otherwise your front line is going to be melted just like this. Actually, I take it all back. Flippy is not going to have enough damage to get through this front line, and Drakus does squeeze out 1 extra placement here. Can they get more in future rounds? We will see after the Dragon.
Oh boy. Yeah, that is, I think, a diff of itemization there. Plus Little Buddies, of course. Little Buddies on Twisted Fate is quite excellent. I don't know about true damage Twisted Fate, because he does that, true damage, but I think much like how Twisted Fate doesn't really have much AP, I think, in general, natural to him, I don't think that's going to convert to true damage as well, if you just have a true damage spat, especially when they removed that bonus damage from the spatula, so...
Yeah, for sure. And that's especially what I was going to bring up, is them removing that bonus damage makes it so much weaker on units where it used to be a kind of a mainstay on these units. And we are seeing the Chosen Twisted Fate come through. Their patience has been rewarded. Most of the time, you probably don't want to have to dig that deep for a Chosen and try to just settle for something else. But for Drakus, it did pay off here. I don't know if it's going to make the difference for them in terms of another placement, but we'll see. They are up against the Annie 3 board. The Annie 3 might be able to ramp fast enough to kill everything else, but it's all up to whatever this Twisted Fate is able to pull off. And with this Ziggs battery, the Nami CC, we have the Thresh here. The Thresh was stuck on the 2nd row, so it's not really going to be able to CC the backline. The Annie is doing whatever the heck she wants. The Twisted Fate here in the 3rd row eats another Annie ult, but the Ziggs clutches it out, and Drakus gets a top 5 out of this. Lynxie goes down. Bob-omb's still alive. Everyone else still alive, but Drakus clutches out a top 5 from that spot. What do you make of that?
That, I liked the positioning there. Unfortunately for Drakus, their front line, as you mentioned, is not the greatest right now. So it's all 1-star units, but because Twisted Fate was on the same side as that Seraphine and that Annie there, they were going to be firing their little cards, even though their items aren't the best. Probably the Dazzler damage reduction hitting the Seraphine, hitting the Annie was enough to perhaps reduce some of that damage and allow the Ziggs to cast and win the fight.
Absolutely, and we see an interesting itemization here from Bob-omb putting the ridiculously big gem on the Yone, who dies before it can even proc. Everything is getting melted by this Vex Samira combination. The Urgot is also 3-starred. I don't think the Ezreal is going to be able to solo this entire board, but it does make one final push to try to mitigate some of the damage, but Drakus does win, so Bob-omb will fall to a 5th place there. Drakus has been able to clutch out a top 4 from their spot, which is nothing short of incredible, but we have Elja's perspective here, who has managed to put together another really cool board with 4 Bruiser, 4 EDM, opting to go for the Disco instead of the 5th EDM here.
Yeah, and we've got the 3-star Lux that we finally were able to hit. That is one tanky Zac as well. So as long as Lux is able to do a bunch of casting, you have to think that because especially some of these, she's going to be able to snipe some of these units. I wouldn't be shocked if she just snipes Ziggs and TF here in this fight, as one cast is not quite enough to get it up, but she does have the Archangel, so second cast will kill. TF is working, but has not been able to kill this front line, so that's the third cast coming down, second cast, and TF will fall, but oh my lord, look at this Thresh and this Blitzcrank.
Gargantuan Thresh and Blitzcrank coming through.
Oh boy.
Oh man, you know, this
you ever seen something like that, Dan?
I have not before had the pleasure of seeing a giant Thresh and a giant Blitzcrank just march down to the back line and punch their way to victory. That was phenomenal.
It's a little bit like Summoner's Rift, except instead of on-hit units, this time all you need are some tank items.
And Rex got a country spat off of the carousel. They are going to be able to go for 7 country if they are able to find a Katarina, or if they have one on hand, they are going to be able to fit that in. And so they are level 8, hoping to find a Katarina from here. They have a small... Oh no, they didn't have a small dupe. That was the emblem. They're just, you know, they're hoping to be able to hit that Katarina so that they can have that extra damage boost. But even just putting that emblem on someone is going to give the horse a little bit more stats than it would have had beforehand, because it scales off at the star level.
Yeah, now one unfortunate thing for Rex is that they don't have much money. So you'd want to see them with their HP sort of advantage here to take it a little bit easy, get some of that money back so that you can have a little bit more gold to roll for, as you said, that Katarina. This Lux is sniping units left and right, but Mumu is a thick boy, tanky. Yeah, very tough, very rough.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Lux, you know, it's like if you don't have tanks that are able to do what the Blitzcrank and Thresh did last round, you are just going to have your carry sniped, and then all of a sudden you're just left with these tanks that don't have the juice to be able to do what the tanks on the other board were able to do. They were able to just get through regardless of the Lux. And these tanks, without any damage to back them up, they don't really do anything.
Yeah, I think if I was Rex, you'd like to see some scouting just to see who we're fighting. As we do come over to his oh, well, actually Rex will be fighting the Ghost Board. Drakus is going to be fighting Ilja here. So we do see the snipes coming in again.
True. And I think to their credit, I think since we are spectating, I don't think we can see them scouting.
Oh, that's right, of course.
But we are seeing the Drakus last stand once again against the Lux Twisted Fate board. We're going to see the Gargantuan boys say, you know what, you can take our Twisted Fate, but you'll never take our freedom. And Drakus sends Elja into a... No, not third place yet, but quite close there.
Oh, my word. And as we can see before, they were hanging on by a thread with that 1-star frontline. Well, now that there's the 2-star Blitz and the 2-star Thresh, well, it's apparently, this is what we should be aiming for in our games, apparently, Dan.
I think so. I think we've all been misplaying Gargantuan Resolve, and we should just be putting it on these phenomenal units, Blitzcrank and Thresh, that are just going to be just amazing carries for these items. One of the things that I do want to see more of, though, is just have these units in the front. I'm getting so stressed out with this Tarek 1 being front and center. But, you know, that's just me as a commentator trying to backseat game a little bit here.
Yeah, another thing we passed on a Blitzcrank here. How much Little Buddy's value do you think taking out something like a Gragas, for example, or not a Gragas, like the Tarek, for example, putting in like an Alawi there?
I think with five disco, you want to have the 2 disco balls, enough to where you don't want to lose the extra ball. But I would be willing to part with the Echo for an Alawi for sure. I think Echo is diminished in value quite a bit here, and we are going to see the Titans Resolve on Blitzcrank proc here. It's just barely not enough, and Drakus will fall to the country board that he has managed to avoid long enough to make it all the way. Oh, not second place, third place once the damage actually goes through. And the country board, Birthday Boy Rex takes it all there with that country reroll angle that just did wonders with finding that Samira so early and able to hit everything they wanted from there. I don't even know if they were able to get 7 country by the end. I didn't watch close enough, but still.
They were able to get another item on that Samira, though. So I like that they were calm and collected, sort of, being able to hit all your 3-star units, but not necessarily being able to itemize them immediately always feels bad, but they stayed calm. They eventually were able to get all the right items that would maximize the comp, and you see they were able to pull off the win. So. Yeah.
Beautiful gameplay there from Rex. Happy birthday. There's your first place. That's your gift from us, the commentators.
Of course.
We made that happen.
Yes.
But, we're going to take a short break before we come back for game 2, so don't go anywhere.
All right, we're back. We're back for game 2 in just a little bit. We're here to sort of talk about the game, how's it going. That was some wild, crazy action, Dan.
That was wild. There was gargantuan resolve tanks. There was a country spat. There was a twisted fate with Hodge red buff Shojin. There was a lot of things. There was a last stand taken at 100 HP that brought them all the way down to 7th place. Then they came all the way back up to 2nd place. It was quite a ride. There was a lot there to look at. There was an Aphelios with
Art Steel cash outs.
IE. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot. There was a lot.
So much going on.
I feel like TFT is a beautiful game.
I know, and you don't often get to see all the cooking that gets done at low elo the higher up you go, because those mean high elo players, they don't like to cook. They're like, let's put everything optimized. Let's kill everybody's HP early on so the cooking can't happen, right?
You can only watch so many Karthus boards before you get sick of it, right? Like you got to get some of those Kale rerolls in there. You got to get the gargantuan blitzcrank, the gargantuan thresh. You got to get all those things in there that make TFT, right? Like
exactly.
There's so much optimization to this game, but there's also so much that makes this game fun, right? And
right.
It sounds like I'm calling these players for fun players, and I'm not trying to do that, but there's so much that comes from being like the gap between challenger and master, and the gap from master to say low diamond and emerald makes it to where there's so many interesting differentiations between those ranks that make it to where the play styles are vastly different. The tempo is so much different. Yeah. The boards are so much different. Everything is just different, and it makes it to where TFT can be so multi-dimensional in that regard.
Yeah, and as you said, because the playstyles are so different, you just end up seeing a completely different style of game. Because, maybe in one elo in specific where they're separate, right? Like if you're in an only high elo lobby, right? Everyone's going to be sort of playing similar tempo, or if someone's really far ahead, a lot of the other players are going to start, pushing tempo to match that faster tempo player. Whereas in low elo, maybe also they're all like playing very slowly or something like that. But when you throw them all together into this big pot, then you could have 3 people playing very fast tempo boards in one lobby, and someone else playing, like we saw in this last game, 100 HP into last stand, where you're suddenly going back and forth, and just it causes these crazy situations to happen, where you can see someone go 100 HP to 1 HP to 3rd place. So it's wild, and it's very fun to see.
Yeah, the 100 HP last stand feels like it would be a play I would make, right? Like it's like, I'm giga streaking right now. I'm super healthy. No one's beaten my board yet, but I have a funny feeling that I'm just going to miss on my roll down. And so I'm going to take this little insurance here to make sure that I have at least one more life to work with.
It's also maybe the sign of a confident player. Rex was like, I'm going to take last stand in this spot just because I can. I know that even if I get to 1 HP, I'm going to end up winning anyway, right? I'm going to make it. I'm going to happen. And, sometimes, too, putting yourself in those situations where you have to, play for your life, ends up, paying off for you because it makes you think. It makes you start thinking, what do I do or I'm going to lose? And you end up playing better TFT just because, you're forced to make those decisions quickly.
You have to find your win con there one way or another, or else you're done. You're done. You're 1 HP. You're done if you don't get it, and so you have to kind of work from there.
All right. Two fun ones.
No votes on Unit Accelerator.
No one wants to play that silly one. The Yone portal, I think it would be called, as we come into Prismatic Prelude. So we know we're going to get a fun Prismatic opener. What shall it be? We don't know yet, but...
And it's always so polarizing, right? The prismatic augments can be so insane. The last game of AML today, I was offered we took Prismatic Prelude, and I had to take level up, even though it was just not really what I wanted to do. And so there's people that might get Prismatic Twin Terror. There's so many other good augments that you can take, and so it's just a matter of knowing what's good and knowing how to play all of the good augments from here.
Oh, we had a Wandering Trainer Prismatic opener earlier today in one of our games today.
Oh no!
I forget what I took. I got offered Determined Investor, I think, and I was like, heck no, I'm not taking that T1. Not in this lobby.
Oh yeah.
That was very fun. So we come onto this board. Looks like they might be angling for KDA. They do have the Evelyn. They do have that Seraphine. Not necessarily looking to buy the Lilia. So we find another Seraphine. Perhaps we have that rod and a sword and a glove. So potentially could make either a Gunblade, a Jeweled Gauntlet, and 2 Seraphines. That might be a Seraphine reroll angle.
Yeah, there's a lot there for them to do. They choose to not take that Chosen. They are just going to play the early KDA board with those units there. We see Arashi here managing to get a huge gold start. They're going to be able to have 20 gold. Well, actually, okay, yeah, never punished.
Boy. Yeah,
they're going to have 22 gold going into 1-4 right there.
As we come into, boy,
hey.
My goodness, you'd think that would have been the perfect Twin Terror spot. Boy.
If they don't know the line, I get it.
Oh boy. Okay, and now we have. Oh boy.
Interesting.
This.
So we have Corki 2 in the shop. We have Jinx Chosen. We have Tahm Kench, Yasuo, and Nami. We have pretty much everything you can find in here that does not go together. We need the built different augment to make a comeback here, please.
Yeah, we don't have built diff anymore. That's a little bit sad. You know what? I think they should bring back Think Fast. Just my opinion. That was pretty fun. No more Think Fast. You're right. Closest thing we got is Infernal Contract. But
and that's been that used to be such a good augment. I think last set Infernal Contract was so good, and you would think it'd be better with all the 3 costs, but there's so much value in being able to go 8 and 9 in this current meta that it's just not a good augment to take right now.
I think sometimes it has niche uses on like an Edgelord board. If you're playing the 5 Edgelord version of like Riven Yone, and you haven't taken like previous econ augments, because obviously you don't want to be taking too many econ augments. You really want those combat augments. But in certain, oh boy, I wonder if they're going to take that. They don't have the items for it, but that was 5 Yasuos.
Yeah,
and a lot of gold.
Interesting spot to be in there, and we see Orenji here with another interesting spot. This is an augment that I don't know if I have ever taken, except, I don't know, maybe once. But they took going long. They no longer gain interest, but they gain 4 XP per round.
Now, interesting.
They currently have Punk with it, and they are spending the Punk rolls. What do you think?
Yeah, that I definitely have to say I think that's probably very suboptimal, because you are not going to be able to stay at a level where you could reroll for that Twitch for that Jinx. I'm not the best at math because I'm a TFT player and bad at math. I'm the opposite. I can read, but I cannot do math. So you have to think that you're going to get stuck around 7 or 8 probably with going along, I imagine. Level 8, level 7 or so. And therefore, you're not going to be really wanting to play something with some of these low-cost units because you're not going to reliably be able to get them 3-starred. So
yeah, absolutely. And it
to
does
this
rely so much
player.
more on being able to maintain your streak, right? Speaking of maintaining a streak here, we have Tiniest Titan
Tiniest
win
Titan.
streaking at the moment. And so the main value that they're getting from it right now is just the gold. And so it gets to a point where if you put Heartsteel in, you can go for a pretty big cash out with this augment. But I don't know, there's a lot that you have to do to be able to get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Babam ain't be using that gold value too much because they have 2 gold. So they're trying to. We'll see what they're doing here because I think they've been using their punk rolls to buy a bunch of units, and they're not quite sure what they want to do with their board here.
Yeah, we haven't reached the point of really committing to anything quite yet.
Oh boy!
It's kind of the opposite. We have a Corki and a Jinx there in the back line, and we see a lot of these players not really wanting to put multiples of the same unit on the board where we could have had a stronger front line with, say, double Taric or something like that. Instead, opting to go for a Jinx with no synergy doesn't really do a whole lot for your board there.
Yeah, and we see now they're going over for a belt on a Twitch, so they're definitely trying to angle for Punk here. It'll be interesting because we also know that someone else in the lobby is thinking about Punk. We can't see if they've scouted each other, so we don't know if they're both trying to play it. Or if they both know that they're both trying to play it. As we come over to, this is one of my favorite augments in the game, Birthday Present. It is a joy. I think it is a joy. It can be completely, feels bad to play this if you get the wrong or, bad units from Birthday Present, but oh boy, it's like, I think it's pure TFT. Now here's the thing, probably a mistake for Drakus, is like Birthday Present, it's all about staying open and flexible, right? It's a joy because you don't know what you're gonna get when you level up. It could be an AD unit, an AP unit, a tank unit. So it's all about building items that probably can work on both, especially early, because putting yourself in one specific direction on level 5 might make it so that when you level to like level 8, for example, and you get that 2-star 4 cost, if you've got AP items and you end up with getting like a 2-star Ezreal, for example, from that Birthday Present, it's going to feel not as good.
Yeah, if anything, you're hoping for the augment. I'm trying to remember the name of it. That lets you take apart items and
components. Scrap bin or something. No, that's the it's something bin. Salvage bin. That's it.
Salvage bin. Thank you. I was thinking recycling for some reason, but that's not quite it. But we do see Flippy here with a very weak board, but maximizing their econ with the full 54 loss streak, and they are going to maintain that loss streak going into Krugs, but they are going to lose a bunch of HP as a result. Again, that idea of HP being a resource versus money being a resource, and trying to make use of your HP to get the most money out of this stage. And we do have Seraphine chosen on the other side there, which is going to be interesting to keep up with.
As we come over back to Orenji, who has got themselves the 12 gold. We do have that going along. We see they're already level 6 here. We have the Jinx here on the board. There is the option perhaps to trade that Jinx for a Pantheon, which I don't know about you. I might be down for that because I don't think you're finding any Jinxes. I don't think you're going to find many Jinxes going forward. But
yeah, the Jinx has been a really good holder for this IE for Orenji here, and I think they're going to look to maybe play it a little bit longer, but I do think that you're right that we should be looking for a different chosen. The Pantheon might be what they would want to opt for, but at the same time, they might be looking for something more on these level 6 or upcoming level 7 odds that might be able to help them. They do have a Last Whisper Sunfire there if they want it. There's also different combinations of items that you can make. You can try to greed for an Even Shroud or something like that, but for the most part, these items are looking pretty solid for RNG's spot as they get more XP from the going long augment, and they did manage to keep 100 streak here, which is
all right.
exactly
and we see they pick up the Amumu. You have to think from this spot. Oh, they just sold it. I was going to say we might see, we do have the IE, as you mentioned. We have potentially a Last Whisper. I don't know if we've seen the rest of the lobby, but with going long, you'd have to think that perhaps something like a Samira Vex reroll type of deal, Executioner's reroll. Oh, we have built Nashers.
Interesting.
All right then.
Now you have my attention. No,
I'm interested.
Well, you have my attention. Now you have my respect. Like, what is this?
We'll see what comes of this. We are streaking. Okay.
It is, maybe it is all about that, like, maintaining the streak mentality, but
yeah,
maybe it was a mistake.
But I feel like you could still maintain the streak by making like a Last Whisper, right? And
yeah, exactly. Last Whisper Sunfire might have maintained that streak a lot easier than this, but at the same time, Young, Wild, and Free from the spot would be so.
And they do take it. Now, one worry is, I mean, it's only a silver augment, so it's not as much of a concern, but taking two essentially econ augments, right? You want to make sure now from this spot that you are basically just trying to win the whole time, because late game your board is not necessarily going to cap out from augments. It's going to cap from having those higher tier units and just beating everyone with your wallet, as opposed to your augments.
Yeah, exactly. Power. You gotta play pretty flawlessly from that point. And speaking of playing flawlessly, we are getting a Seraphine chosen here. The KDA spat being slammed. They have a small champion duplicator on bench. They only need one more Seraphine, and they are pretty broke at this point with no Superfan, which is going to make this a lot harder for them to try and win. But Flippy was the one with the weak board. They were able to hit a Bard chosen, which is going to make them a little bit stronger. The Cassante sitting there with the Even Shroud with this. This Kai'Sa's doing her best to try to get these ults off. This Bard does get one more cast to heal the Kai'Sa before going down, recognizes that he's not going to get the damage out, and we do not get the final kill on that unit. Rex does beat Flippy here, who is still full econ, does have double Cyber Bulk on that other side, which is going to be pretty interesting for them.
Yeah, we come over now to this board here for Elja, who has got a Nashers, and Sword probably wants a tier there. I believe if they're angling Twisted Fate, that is indeed the correct option. I believe that if you want Nashers on Twisted Fate, you ideally want to have that Shojin as well, for both damage purposes and just being able to cast enough times. So very strong at the moment. Level 6. Got the Zac already there, but is working with a Gragas chosen, so it's going to be probably a little bit less ideal to have to sell that eventually if you're looking for a different headliner.
Yeah, and you could always go the Orenji route and just slam the IE there and try to keep it.
Exactly.
I think that's exactly what LG's looking for here. They do get a tip from Bard, and the tip is build a stronger board, please, but they have enough HP to work with to where that's going to be not a problem, hopefully, in the future.
Yeah, now one thing interesting is they did take Tiny Titans, so they did gain a bunch of HP back. And now that they're at the top of the board, it might be a little bit harder to get, for example, that tier, which I imagine that they probably would like to see. See, like, there it goes, Raging, well, actually that was Flippy. Raging Rex took took the belt. Raging Rex took the belt, Flippy beat him to the tier. And now Elsha has got to choose they do get a glove, so that is good. They do have that glove on the bench for lucky gloves. So you have to imagine that's an instant slam, eh, Dan?
Yeah, definitely better than the IE that we could have slammed here. Although we do have the Ezreal in shop right now, there could be somewhat of a pivot there, but I don't think with those items that we have slammed already, that's going to be a very smart choice. But we do have Lynxie's board here, 5 Heartsteel. I believe they
What's
just
gonna happen?
out. They have 2 spats on.
Oh boy, and 2 belts. You know what we could do from here, Dan?
Oh, it's time! It's time! Please do it! Please
do it!
I need it!
Right? Let's see it. I want no guts,
level
right?
6, so that
it's a fawn. They made a fawn. All right. You know,
and they
I guess
Shojin JG on Ezreal so far, probably just as an item holder for later. But man, they had the chance to do the funniest thing.
If any of the moment, I feel like that could have been it. Maybe, you know, you got enough gold to do it. You know that you wouldn't be like sacking your other stuff to build them. But oh well, it's I guess
what it is.
Fawn is fine. But I would like to see maybe some rolling, some upgrades, as you so kindly put it earlier. Some stronger boards.
Yeah. I just said that because the Bard didn't want to die earlier, right? It wasn't a criticism of them. It's just like the Bard was like, I'm dying, man. Just build a stronger board.
Yeah. We do have that Twisted Fate there and the Lulu, but I'm not certain that's going to be winning any rounds anytime soon as we come over to this Chosen Urgot with Shojin IE.
And there's another Urgot too on the bench. I love this.
All right. Now this is... Looks like we might be going for a 3-star Urgot, which, you know what, I approve. I think Urgot is probably better than, you know, it's one of those units you would wish that is better, you know, because he's deceptive. He's sometimes he's killing it, other times you're like, Urgot, why?
Yeah, you gotta wait a couple of days for this particular route to work out for you. The changes they're gonna make to Urgot are gonna make him a lot better. But you know that's irrelevant here, as Bob-omb does beat Renji, who has, well, I was gonna say has no gold, but they're going long. And I was gonna say though that they have lost at least a couple of times since we last saw them. Which...
Oh right, here we go. Here comes Heartsteel. We took it. No raising the stakes here.
No stakes.
And now we have some AP items. A rod here. What are we going to do with it? That's the question. You have to wonder, since they do have this Urgot here, right? Are they going to push for the 3-star Urgot, or are they going to sell? Because, you know, as funny as we talk about, you know, 3-star Urgot, and I actually don't think 3-star Urgot's probably the worst decision in the world. However, if I am remembering correctly from looking at stats, Urgot prefers attack speed over something like IE Shojin, you know, or at least some attack speed as opposed to all AD.
Yeah, at the very least, he likes the bruiser items, right? He's a great red buff holder. He's a decent Last Whisper applier, for example, things like that. He's also a decent even shroud holder too, if you're full on another tank or something and you really need that shred. But I think we'll see Bob-omb sell that Urgot with those items in particular. All right. Probably opt for like a country build from there. But we do have the Seraphine. Wait, was that?
We are level 8.
I thought this was Rex's board that had the Seraphine 3, but
oh no,
level 8.
This is Arashi.
Be looking for something here with Arashi's.
They have used their upgrades, or they have to use their rerolls already from the rolling for days. I believe.
Yes. The roll down did happen, but we did stay on a Seraphine Chosen for the meantime, and so we spent those rolls without having the Chosen open, or maybe we did and just I don't know when
okay
spent, but
all right,
force is probably not the move.
Yeah, not the case here. We do what you roll the 3 item shops. You got to think it's the middle one. They took the tank items
for a second. I like that a lot.
You like that one?
I think they need frontline here.
Okay, that makes sense. Sense.
Oh, hologram. Interesting.
Okay, I like this. I like this a lot.
And
from Raging Rex.
So that's really relevant because
you know, it was looking a little sketchy earlier. I got to be honest, for Rex. When they had that Seraphine, they hadn't slammed items. They took, I think, the Hodge that we see there on Ari when they could have taken something like a Spark, because we still see like they don't have any Shred right now, right? So you're going to be wanting to look for that Magic Shred in the future.
Yeah.
But
and they notably took Caretaker's Chosen here, but aren't going to be able to hit level 8 for quite a while with this angle, the way things are right now. And I don't know how much work the hologram is currently doing and whether or not it actually gets the Chosen buff. I think it does, though. I think it casts twice, but even so, it's still going to be really difficult to make something work here for Raging Rex. But maybe the opponent's boards are going to be weak enough for most of stage 4 to where he can squeak by and try to econ up a bit while he tries to get this board together.
Yeah, one good thing for them is they do have that very strong Seraphine who, as long as she's able to get at least a couple casts off, will be able to do a lot of damage and win some of those fights. We do have, 53 HP, which you probably want a little bit more, but that should be, some really strong fights. If you do lose, you're probably only going to lose by a little tiny bit. As we come over to Elja with this Caitlyn board, has slammed the Death Stance and the Runons, which I do like quite a bit. Probably is regretting
with their pants down a little bit here as they are mid-transition, still not quite everything on the board. They don't have a rapid fire, for example. They don't have all the 8-bit that they want on there. They don't have the 4 8-bit, but the Caitlyn is still able to clean up just enough to be able to pull this off, unless the one tentacle can do enough work to do it, which is very unlikely. Elja does take the dub here against Bob-omb, and the lobby HP is looking pretty close right now. Everyone is in the 60-50 range except for the bottom 2, and so at this point, even though it looks like there's some people that might be going out soon, it really is anyone's game.
Yeah, and we saw with some of these prismatics that the power levels are all over the place. So you got the 1-cost rerolls who are spiking, you got 2-cost rerolls, you got level 8 boards, so it's very fun, and it's quite interesting to see how all these different players are choosing to play their game.
Yeah, exactly. We see the wild and free coming through here. We see all of these players choosing to spike at different points in the game. There's a lot of them that are still holding on to a lot of their gold to try and spike at later rounds than this, potentially after Raptors. Meanwhile, some of these players like Elja have decided that they need to roll. They need to try to get that board strength going, and so they are going to try to put these items on better units, get better units on the board, get that Thresh out there, that Sack out there, the Echo 2, everything to try to keep this Caitlyn alive so that she can actually get stuff done and get those wins out for Elja.
Yeah, and I do like the adaptations. For example, putting that Thresh in there, getting that Thieves Gloves on them. It's unfortunate that Caitlyn isn't necessarily the best line to take, I think, on this patch, just because some of these Karthus boards end up just doing quite a bit of damage before Caitlyn is able to actually kill enough units. So it's got to feel a little bit bad for Elja, because last patch I think you'd be sitting fairly pretty with this Caitlyn itemized this way, but fortunately not.
Yeah, and they made a good micro decision there by putting the 2 Sunfire capes on opposite sides of the board from each other to try and get that burn to spread out a little bit more evenly, instead of just having the stacking burn, which isn't really going to do anything for you. We are sitting on 6 pentakill here. Probably going to look to try and roll for something else after neutrals. The Viego is on the edge of the board there, which stresses me out a little bit, but other than that, we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, and we do end up having this 6 pentakill here. You almost wonder if there is something that you could take out at some point to get a little bit better, or you're probably looking for at least 1 more pentakill unit to get 7 pentakill in there.
Yeah, we're probably going to be looking for either that Gnar, that Olaf, or ideally that Yorick hit. Oh wait, Olaf's already in there, but you're going to be looking for just 1 more pentakill unit to kind of round out this board. I don't think Drakus is going to try to go 9 from here, but you never know. They might actually try and hit that angle from here. I don't know if they'll keep the Vex, for
Yeah,
example. I don't know if they'll keep most of this, but we'll see.
they do have 48 HP, I believe, if I'm reading that correctly. So that's a pretty solid buffer, I would say, and especially because Karthus is so strong on this patch, as well with the Viego, and I think that a decent frontline. Maybe get some more frontline units from all of these drops, frontline items, I should say, and so hopefully, and then I believe, you know, if you have a few turns in you, I think you could definitely end up going 9 from this spot, especially because we have birthday presents. So if we were to high roll, for example, a frontline chosen like a Yorick or an Alawi, now that would be fun.
That'd be pretty great. And we do see the 7 pentakill here coming in, keeping that Blitzcrank there, keeping the Viego in the front line. We do have the Morello components left. We are not going to receive any more individual components, and so they do need to probably slam that Morello on someone. Ideally, I don't know, well, Vex is one of the options, I think, but I think Mordekaiser, if you have no one else to slam it on, is probably a decent choice. Diego's not absolutely terrible since he spreads that kind of debuff really well, but we are seeing the Karthus get some good crits here. The Viego's doing the best he can, but he does move to the back line or the front line instead of the back line and does end up costing the fight just by 1 unit there.
Yeah, and how about that Ezreal? You like to see it. I like the itemization. You got that blue buff, you've got that IE, and of course, Runon's Hurricane is actually quite good for Ezreal and Caitlyn, for example. So you love to see the itemization there. Has got some crazy stuff going on Flippy's board. Multiple pentakill spats, I believe. 2-star Kiana. So quite wild as we come over to
oh no! What happened to this board since we left?
Yeah, I think Renji, you know.
This is one of those when we last left you type situations, and I don't really know what to do with this. I think there's a lot here that went wrong for Renji. They've had a rough day today, going 7-7-8 so far, and even with the going long, they were not able to make something happen. They will take an 8th place there, a very heartbreaking 8th place, as they just couldn't get it. They just couldn't make it work. They just couldn't find the stuff that they wanted to find to make their board work there.
You know, it's some of these augments are very confusing, and if you don't know what you're doing with them, you know, it can turn you all sorts of arounds, right? So Renji had that Punk start, was thinking maybe I can play Punk, but not quite realizing, okay, taking going long is going to send me in a completely different direction. And probably spent the rest of the game trying to figure out, well, wait, what do I do now from here? And when you play catch-up like that, it can definitely cause problems. But how about Babam, 2 off Caitlyn 3 here, with some interesting itemizations here. With the Shojin,
I don't hate the Caitlyn items minus the static Shiv, but there's a lot going on here in terms of rolling 30 gold and not seeing one more Caitlyn at the very least. And the Caitlyn doesn't have rapid fire still, so she's not really able to get those ults off without much of that buff to help. But the Shojin does help in that regard, but the Ezreal there is not going to be enough damage. Bob-omb will go down to 3 HP here, 1 last life left to figure it all out.
Yeah, well, they're unfortunately not quite enough gold to really be able to roll. You almost wonder, do you sell the board just to see if we can hit Caitlyn 3? You know, why not? Just for the funsies? Because I don't think, I don't know. It depends who we're fighting, I think, because you have to win, I think, 2 fights to scrape a placement here, yeah? 21 HP. Sure. So you need to
and Drakus are both on 2 lives each.
Yeah. So you need to win at least 1, or take a very good loss and hope someone else loses. So this could be the last fight for Babam here. They do found they're 1 off. Oh, they're not.
Buy it, please. Oh, okay.
Okay, 1 off. Yeah, they're going. They're trying. They're selling. They're not gonna roll. We'll see how this fight goes. They fight off a strong Twisted Fate board.
Roll again. For the crowd. What's behind the door? Oh no. And
Oh, boy.
Bob Bomb, 1 Caitlyn off Caitlyn 3 falls to one of the stronger boards in the lobby, Lynxie's board. And we are seeing here 2 players win streaking at the very end of the game here. And
Libby with this
Oh, yeah.
Ezreal, baby. Ezreal is coming on strong. A lot of people were sort of, poo-pooing on these AD carry lines, especially Caitlyn. But recently, in discovering a new sort of line with Ezreal plus Zed, Ezreal is making a comeback. He is quite a solid carry, especially if you can get Heartsteel in. And oh my lord, with this 2-star Kiana, you can do whatever you want to do. So it's quite fun.
Yeah, I'm liking this 2-star Kiana with Edge of Night pentakill spat. I think that's brilliant. I think this Ezreal's doing a lot of work on his own. I think the front line leaves a little bit to be desired here. I don't know if Crowd Diver's really worth it for Kiana at this point. You'd probably rather have the Masher Bruiser set synergy in there, but for now it seems like it's working, so I can't be too critical of it.
And unfortunately for Ezreal, you can sort of see with this Karthus, there's so much of that chip damage that used to be coming last patch from Ezreal, but with the Karthus just ulting everybody on the board almost.
Now, here's the thing.
You really want healing.
There's 2 Kiana 2s in this lobby.
Right.
That's something.
That is pretty something. It's hard to find Kiana. I think it's a little bit easier now that True Damage isn't as popular.
Right.
So it's a little bit, you're going to find Kiana a little bit more than last patch where, anyone who saw 1-star Kiana would instantly be like, how can I fit this onto my board? But now in this patch, it's a little bit less frequent, but you can never say no to a 2-star Kiana. So the 2 of them. The one thing is, of course, because there are 2-star Kianas, we will not be seeing a Kiana 3-star. Have you ever hit a Kiana 3-star, Dan? Because I have.
I've seen it in double up though. It's pretty great.
It's wild. Did you know that 3-star Kiana beats 3-star Ziggs?
Oh. Well,
yeah.
The more you know.
Yes, I think it's unfortunately because Kiana, I think, casts faster than Ziggs and stuns him.
I see.
She just deletes all of Ziggs' friends, the rest of his friends on the board.
Now we are seeing Lynxie here with 80 gold on level 9. Tell me your board's fine without telling me your board's fine. Like, tell me you're feeling confident without telling me you're feeling confident, right? Like, he is just 10-0ing everyone that he comes across. Case in point here, Dracus goes down to a 4th place. We see Flippy and Rex as the other matchup still, but we do see Lynxie maintaining their streak even in the top 3. Rex falls to Flippy. They're both in the 20s in terms of HP. But again, Lynxie is just chilling. They might even just try to go level 10 from here, just for fun.
I think it's perfectly reasonable to do that. I think they're playing great. They're not even very far off from level 10 with all of that gold that they have got. So this is very fun. I think they're playing one of my favorite augments, Spoils of War. It's always fun to play Spoils of War because I really like that playstyle where you're trying to build, strong board and just tempo into wins, and the wins build upon each other, and then you just get all these fun items, and sometimes you get all these wacky things like Tome of Traits, and it's basically like some of those crazy portals in an augment.
Oh yeah. And we do see the Akali here hit the Lulu instead of the Twisted Fate, which is going to make all the difference in the world in this fight, because the Twisted Fate is just going off all they want against this other board. They do manage to hit Rex pretty hard there, even though they have the Seraphine 3 on their board. It is not enough against this fully capped out disco board. And even then, it's not even fully capped out. You can still 2-star a bunch of things on this board.
Look, we found a Sona and a Lucian.
Oh my goodness.
We're leveling?
They are going level 10. Yep. With almost 50 gold, basically 50 gold.
Interesting. We're rolling. You ever think about it? I don't know. You do have the Yorick. You have the Yorick. I don't know. You have the Yorick. You could sell it.
Go for a Lowy.
There's one Alawi. There's two Alawis. Oh boy. Oh boy. Come on.
I don't know if the game lasts
Sell
long
it.
enough.
You have the
down.
front line.
I'd be
I
down.
think it'd be so down. This is the if after the time to sell your front line.
The opponents die too quick. But please
That's
do
true,
it.
that's
Please.
true. We got all the gold. We have all the gold. Come on.
They locked it. They locked it. I think they're gonna do it.
All right, here we go. And we have carousel, which means we're gonna get interest, which means we're gonna have gold. You know.
Yep.
Even though actually that would have happened anyway. Now that I'm talking about it, you know.
Everything's coming up Linksy right now.
Okay, country spat, jazz spat. Look at all these spats. Look at all these things.
There's so many spats. Oh,
unfortunately, they won't get the jazz spat. You know, what are you gonna take?
Take country and
Bruiser spat. Bruiser spat. Hardsteel spat
for the 5
cost. Not hardsteel spat. The
Oh man. All right, okay. It's time.
All right, sell and buy. Sell, buy. All right,
let's go.
Buy the 5 cost. Buy the 5 cost. Buy the 5 cost. No, you gotta buy the 5 cost. No.
Oh please, we're 2 off. We're 2 off.
We're not optimizing. Buy the 5 cost and roll.
Please.
All right, come on. Buy and hit. Buy and hit. You just gotta take them out of the pool.
Please keep going.
Linksy.
Keep going. It's almost over. Please.
Linksy. Linksy, come on. No.
Oh man.
Right. Well,
they are playing a ghost, so there will be one more round.
I think maybe Linksy's trying to lose. They haven't slammed their adaptive helm. They're trying to take a loss so that we can see the 3-star zigs.
They're inting.
It's okay. It's a ghost board. Unfortunately, what's going on the other boards though? What's going to happen between Raging Rex and Flippy? Okay, Flippy beat Raging Rex, so it's coming down to this: Linksy versus Flippy.
Do it! Sell board,
buy, sell. Do what you said. Buy, sell. Come on.
Sell the board.
Let's see it. Let's go.
I guess they don't want us to board for the leagues.
No.
End this round. Take your carries out. Take any of them out. No.
Sell board. You know, I guess we can't fault them. They just want to win.
All right, I'm starting a petition to ban Linksy from AAL.
Oh my lord, Dan! You know that's a little mean.
No, I don't care.
I don't think we're entitled to seeing 3-star 5 costs.
My needs didn't have to be met, and my needs were not met by this player. They need to be banned from AAL. I am joking for legal purposes. I am not going to start a petition to ban Linksy. I'm definitely joking. Linksy, congratulations on that phenomenal win. Sad that you were 1 off of Ziggs, but that was some beautiful TFT, my friend. Good job.
Yeah, great play. My favorite augment into a win, into a dub. You know, you'll love to see it. I wish I could play that game. I could play if I could have Draven. You know, the Legends where you could take Spoils of War. Should bring that just Draven back, so you just can play Spoils of War every game. You know, the rest of the Legends. No, but if you could pick Spoils of War every game, that'd be fun.
Oh yeah, Spoils of War is a good augment. You know, I think I take it more often when I'm about to go on a 5 loss streak than I ever do when I'm actually strong.
Yeah, when you're actually
but
strong.
It's just too fun to pass up.
When it's the right place, you know, time to take it. We always take it on the wrong time because you hope you're like, man, if I could get to my strong board, right, then we could win.
Exactly.
But yeah, oh well.
And we never quite get there, so.
Yeah, so this was some
It's good to see someone make it happen.
Great AAL action. So exciting. We are going to not have scores quite yet because some lobby is still just finishing up. But what a fun day of AAL action. Glad to see it back. We even have delayed a week in case anyone doesn't know. The reason that AAL is starting a week later is so that we can be able to broadcast the finals for AAL, which we have not in the past been able to do because of the overlap with the AML playoff finals. So it's going to be fun, I think, to be able to see finally some AAL playoff final action. So
Yeah. Finally, and maybe they'll play the finals instead of TFT for the finals. I think Lawrence would like
okay,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we are going to be moving on to the lab tournament. They are running a charity tournament today with some really formidable players. So if you're still watching, stick around for that tournament. It is going to be quite the production. There's going to be some really good games there. Fiendfire, where can people find you on the socials?
We're on Twitch, we're on Twitter. It's kind of a ghost town. We don't do much. Mostly we're just here, but we're around. You can find me on the ladder where I intaway my LP every other game. So
Relatable.
Yeah.
And I'm on Twitter at phdan_, Twitch phdan_TV. Since phdan is taken on both platforms for
Oh boy,
a frustrating reason.
rough.
But no, we move on. But yeah, we are going to move on to the lab. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching AAL and AML today. These have been some really fun games, and hope to see y'all next week.
Yep.